What up, what up? This is the 116 Life on Holy Culture Radio, Sirius Channel 154. I'm your host, Ace Harris, but we got some amazing legends, GOATs in the building. DJ Mykael V, who he be making fun of me earlier, so I ain't gonna introduce you. Kind of a hater. It's that New York in him. And the legendary Lecrae,
hello,
Ben Washer, co-founders of Records. Lecrae got the most jokes on sidebars any time of the day, so I'm just trying to catch myself because I'm still making fun of him about how, he be talking junk about me driving. But anyway, how y'all feeling today, man? How's it going?
Hey, man, life is grand.
That's what's up, man.
You know what I'm saying? It's summertime. The kids are out of school. I can sleep a little bit later.
You take the kids to school in the morning?
You just got to get up, man, because, I don't take
them
to school.
You help.
I just rally like,
his kids walk to school.
Yeah, it's true.
He lives
okay.
Rally
I have
the
to
troops.
rally them.
Okay.
Like, hey, get out of here.
Is Dara up normally around that time?
Yeah, she'll get up.
Okay.
But still, it's like she barks, I bite. You dig?
I feel that. I'm pretty much the same way. I'd be so...
Dang, the authoritarian Lecrae.
No, I mean, me probably similar. My parenting style is kind of like in the morning, I'm like a drill sergeant, bro. Yo, get that toothpaste, what you doing? And I was just like...
It's 8:49. What are we doing here? What are we doing?
Bro.
That's me all day, bro. I be having to be like, you know what? They did just wake up and they are 6 and 8. But still...
6 and 8 is crazy.
Yo, get up. What you doing?
6 and 8 is wild. Get out of that bed. Dad, I peed on myself. Shut up and eat your breakfast.
I literally happened the other day for Phil.
Oh my God.
Bro,
And I was like, yo, why you peeing yourself, man? You should be old enough not to pee.
Bro, I used to get berated
Enjoy your
as a
bladder,
kid,
boy.
bro. Berated.
Pick up these Legos.
Yo, Ben, what about you, man? What your morning routine be like?
I'm feeling good. It's summer, get to sleep in, get some
Right.
extra rest. I'm feeling good today, so excited to be here.
That's what's up, man. Mykael V, how you feeling, man? You know what I'm saying? How you feeling, check?
I feel good, bro. I'm not gonna hold you. Yeah, it feels good. I feel like I got a lot on my plate, but it's a good, healthy amount.
You left one.
If you
hanging.
say a fat joke, I swear to God,
It's a healthy plate.
Yo, Mykael is so New York. He can't not use New York terminology.
He can't, bro.
I'm not gonna hold you.
I'm not. Yeah.
Yeah, I can't just exist, bro. I can't. I can't exist. Let me live
sorry.
my life, bro.
I wanted to say another joke, but I was gonna.
I knew you were. I don't know if you heard me. I was like, yo, if you say a fat joke, I'm out of here, bro. It's a
I'm not
wrap.
gonna hold you. I'm like,
Mykael.
bro, I don't know if I can. You know what I'm saying?
I don't see I just see a father figure over there. That's all I see.
Ooh,
Ooh.
yeah.
Lecraestore.com.
You
I'm just
hear
kidding.
me?
Lecraestore.com.
That was a shot. Anyway, I think we had a great conversation. Not I think, but I'm sure we had a great conversation last time about just the legacy, the foundation. I get to see you guys up front and personal throughout the week. So like, just seeing the real y'all is really fun. Like y'all really are great leaders, husbands, fathers,
Facts.
businessmen.
Man, I got to come on this podcast more often.
Hey, is this your affirmation time?
Yeah.
Man? Whatever you ain't getting outside of here, this is the space. No, for real, I do brag. I brag to people all the time. Even I was telling AT about how like, having like bosses who are like a little bit older than me, but are like way more in shape than me, read the word, lead their home, kill it in business. It's like very aspirationally like great to have like as role models. Like, wow. So anyway, just want to big up to y'all for the way you guys lead your life and how it impacts me. You know what I'm saying?
That's great.
More compliments coming. What's up, Mykael?
No, I agree. I mean, I love the fact that I can be around them and just kind of absorb like natural stuff. It's like what I mean by that is like you are who you're around.
Facts.
So it's like if I was still in the projects and I was just around people that, you know what I'm saying, like how my parents were, no shot at my parents, how, you know what I'm saying?
I
There
feel
was no
you.
aspiration for
Sure,
stuff.
sure.
You got to figure out yourself. I feel like people like Lecrae, Ben, Andy, you, Biz, people I'm around, that's like, yo, you should like start owning homes. Hey, you should start thinking about this. Hey, like just being around them, it kind of like just shifts your mind.
For sure. Iron sharpen iron for sure. But enough about what we think. I want to hear from them. Like, we talked about the foundation of Reach Records. I mean, 20 years. It's still kind of surreal to me. I don't know if it is to y'all. Like, how does it
grown
feel
child.
having 20 years being heads of Reach Records, and where do you see things like currently now? You know what I'm saying?
I mean, we were talking yesterday. We're not great at reflecting and celebrating.
Really?
So it's almost like, oh, wait, 20 years? What? Like,
Yeah.
Wow.
I can't believe we've been doing this long. But when you do take time to look back,
Yeah.
and it's pretty amazing the ride we've been on.
Man. What about you, Craig? Like, just can you reflect? Just yeah.
The conversation we were having yesterday made me kind of sit in that space and just think about like, yo, that's kind of crazy. Like that's somebody who was born when Reach Records was started is an adult right now.
That's true.
That's crazy to think about.
Literally grew up on y'all's music.
Like grew up on, like raised on the music.
Right.
You know what I mean? So that's just wild to me to think of that type of impact and legacy, and it starts to make other things make sense. Like somebody texted a picture today of like a person with their license plate said 116. They had a big 116 sticker in the window, and it was just like, oh, this is like embedded in their life, in their world.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
I think another thing that I want to call out is like, obviously we can talk about, you guys' tenure, your history, but I feel like everything that's great that lasts long, there's a certain requirement for you to keep your pulse on what's happening now. And I have this like, you don't notice, I have this like running competition in my head. I like to beat Lecrae to the newest trend in music. Or the newest. That boy always, and he never gets caught slipping. Never. And it irritates me because I'm like, it's like this, who can stay the most tapped in with the younger culture? But talk to us about what you guys do to like keep your ears to the streets, if that's a thing. You know what I'm saying?
I can tell you, for me personally, I just don't stay. It's probably ADD. I don't know. I don't stay seated. Like a lot of my friends, a lot of people peak at like 25 and they live there for the rest of their lives.
Ooh.
They're just like, this is
you
the
can
best.
see it in their outfits.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's like, these are the best years of my life.
Yeah.
And it's like, this is the music I love. This is the clothes I love.
Right.
And then they never move past that. And for me, I'm like, I don't want to stay there. I want to like, okay, well, what's next? What's next? What's next? What's next? What's next?
Well, what are you doing practically to be up? Is it like, are you scrolling? Are you listening? Like, what is it that's feeding you where you just know kind of what's?
Yeah, I think it's asking why a lot. Okay. It's like my when I see kids love a particular artist, I'm like, all right, why? And then I had to dive in and try to understand the psychology of what it is they love about this artist, or what's trending, why is it trending. I specifically remember Lil Durk when it was like, he was just going crazy, and I just like, I remember when he came out, like, what's going on? Why is he blowing up all of a sudden? So I just had to do my due diligence and tap in and just understand what was going on in the culture to make that make sense.
All right, that's perfect, man, for sure. I thought you had something.
Nah, I mean, I was just gonna ask, like, with that, like, how do you like project trajectory? Like when you see newer artists like in the space, out the space, are you someone that's like optimistic and you can kind of see where they're going, or how you said, do you just study them and you're like, okay, like let me see why they're where they're at?
I mean, we also keep younger staff and people around us, and do a lot of that intentionally. I'd say, like, Ben is really good about like saying this person needs to lead now. And
I feel you. I feel you.
Honest.
Yo, he be putting people in position like,
like, yo, you need to lead, and it's like, oh yeah, okay, yeah, like.
Wait, you said lead.
Yeah, lead. Nah,
I thought you said leave.
Yeah, well, that too.
Whoa,
Stay space.
Old person,
Whoa.
Get the old people out of here.
I'm the only old
to be
guy.
the boss.
No. Ben,
you got to fire too.
Ben
bro.
is real. I mean, you can speak to it, but you're loose-handed with like allowing people to step into leadership and not just own. Excuse me, just grip it.
Yeah. I mean, you learn by getting thrown in the deep end a lot of times. So. It's like a lot of things in your life, you're never fully ready. You just got to go be tested then learn along the way. So
yeah, I feel like in terms of like even you, Ben, you are every Friday. If you find something on New Music Friday, you're sending it to me because you always seem to be just aware of when something doesn't sound fresh. And I think which like you have a good ear and eye for like. That don't sound fresh. That don't sound believable. I feel like you have the authenticity radar.
Yeah.
Which is good. And I have a question for you. Like, in terms of like where music is, how do you feel like we as a label are carving out artists that are in touch with culture now? Like, what do you think? What do you think we're doing to be in like pretty much on par with culture, and what more could we be doing? Because I think it's good for us to celebrate, and I think the other side of that is we can also kind of get comfortable. You know what I'm saying, with like what has been built versus looking at what can be. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I think you always have to be willing to disrupt what you're currently doing, and that's not easy to do because if something's working, then it's a lot harder to disrupt that and introduce something new that starts small that could be big later. So if you have a certain sound that you built a following on, and you got a new artist that sounds different, it's harder to say, well, let's introduce this because we hope in 3 to 5 years that's going to be what's current or where things are.
Can you call that out? The 3 to 5 years, what kind of patience does it take? Because I think you used that time stamp before. Why 3 to 5 years, and what kind of like resolve does it take as like a label owner to be patient with something that's new, that's disrupting, may not be making money right now, making noise right now? Like, how do you have that patience to see the long game?
Yeah, we've just seen over the years, it takes about 3 years for something new to start to feel like, okay, this artist is working, or this thing's working. And you just kind of have to have that in mind. I mean, there's some wins along the way that give you some encouragement, but there's not really this sort of like hockey stick moment until a few years down the road,
right?
When momentum starts to really build.
Yeah, Craig, are you balanced that way too, or do you feel like sometimes you're more like, yo, I want to see this thing kind of scale faster? How do you guys balance y'all leadership in that way? Because it's like it's so easy to just fall back into the 116 culture that's built. Yeah, look at what's been doing, but then I feel like my time here, I feel like I came in at a time when it was all risk. It was like everything I've put my hands to was like new and fresh. Yeah. Maybe because I had my head down, I didn't notice it, but I didn't realize like, oh, this thing kind of, it's like, it's expected to perform in like 3 to 5 years. I didn't really know. Like, how do you balance that?
I think we know. I think what we're really good at is like, if you just look at the kind of the curve of creativity, there's like innovators, there's early adopters, there's like the early majority, there's the late majority, and then there's like just the lazy late people who don't care. Yeah. I think we're really good in that sweet spot of early majority. Okay. You know what I mean? Like early majority is like, it's dope, and it's not so early that people don't rock with it. It's like we're right before it becomes the like
saturated.
It's saturated. Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
And I think that's the sweet spot that we want to be in. Sometimes I feel like for Christian culture, we come off as like early adopters because the culture's a little behind. Yeah. But it's like, nah, this is already like early majority right now. Like, what are y'all on? Like, you know what I mean? Like, drill is, you know what I mean? Yeah, so Christian culture can tend to historically be like late. You know what I mean? It's like y'all just starting to wear Yeezys? What's happening right now? It's like, yeah, I got the new Yeezys. Look at these. It's like, yo, what in the world? So I think from one standpoint, when I see something bubbling, I want to institute that into what we have, but sometimes it just doesn't take off as fast.
That's true. It takes some patience to know, like, the Christian community, not to box what we do in as that, but it's like knowing that it's gonna filter. And I also want to get into this more in our next segment. Just the way you guys engage the current artists. I feel like there's kind of two groups. There's like I don't want to say this word because it makes people feel older, but the first class. Let's say that the first class of artists.
The inaugural class.
The inaugural. I feel like Marcus used that word before, and Lecrae roasted him. But the inaugural class, like the second class. I think it's like a third generation. Yeah. And man, we can get into this more after the break, but y'all want to hear you guys speak to that. So stay tuned. This is the 116 Life on Holy Culture Radio, Sirius Channel 154. I'm your host, Ace Harris. This is
DJ Mykael V.
Yeah, and these are my amazing leaders, trailblazers, Lecrae and Ben Washer, co-founders of Reach Records. So stay tuned. What up? This is the 116 Life on Holy Culture Radio, Sirius Channel 154. I'm your host, Ace Harris, with my man
DJ Mykael V.
Sitting here with Lecrae Moore, Ben Washer. I have a compliment to give you again. So we got an artist group chat. It goes down. A lot of hot takes at times. Lecrae randomly sends a encouragement encouraging word to, not to say the younger, I say the newer class, like
the third generation.
The third generation. That's probably a better way to put it. I feel
generation.
like younger is like caveat there because like we getting older, right? So, and he just encourages everybody individually. Talk to I guess just the world about why that's important. Why'd you do it? A little bit of what you said and how that just embodies like the 116 life, man.
Yeah, it's funny. I was reading the scriptures and Jesus was talking to the disciples and he said, when you're older, you put away this or you don't do this or whatnot. And what a lot of people don't realize is that the life expectancy back when Jesus was talking was like 50 years old. So for him to say older meant like, oh, he's talking to me. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm older when you're older. Like, so I'm in what Jesus would have considered like the legacy phase of life, where it's like, it's not about my ego. It's not about building my thing. It's not about climbing this ladder for me. It's about like letting the rope down so other people can climb. And
that's real.
When you can embrace that aspect of who you are and where you are, then it's so much easier to serve other people and to like figure out how to help them ascend or grow or develop. So I just always want to kind of maintain that posture because that's what gets me excited now. It's like I'm not chasing the next new thing. I'm not like, man, how do I get to be? I'm more excited about seeing other younger people mature, grow, develop. That is really what gets me excited.
Right.
I've built my thing.
Right.
You know what I mean?
For sure.
And so it's less about ego. It's less about, I see people like that. I see people going through, they call midlife crisis, but 50 is not your midlife, bro. Nobody's gonna live to 100. You know what I'm saying?
So you said
30 is probably midlife for a lot of people. 35 is
well, at the
mid.
rate that they're consuming said
Yeah.
stuff or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah. So I just see a lot of individuals hit their 40s and 50s, and they're still like trying to prove something.
That's real. That's
It's
like
just like, what are you doing?
Just exist, be present.
I mean, help somebody else. It's some 25-year-old who doesn't know what the heck they're doing with their lives. They like, give them some guidance.
I think one interesting thing that you've brought up already, and it's the second time you said it, is legacy. And you've left, you and Ben and the original rendition of what we're talking about
for sure.
has left some amazing legacy with 116 and all these different tours and just the movement. Now with the new signees like Wande and Few and Hovey and RG, like, do you think it's their responsibility to carry the torch that you have originally like lit, or is it their job to kind of like reimagine what you like the standard that you've set?
I'll speak. I'll let you. But I think it's their responsibility to carry the torch that Jesus has lit.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
that's cold. I love it.
Yeah, you got a responsibility, not because I did it, but it's because I'm following those before me, who following those before them. And so it's like, don't drop the ball, champ. Like, keep it going.
Yeah.
I mean?
Yeah, I would just say it's not brand building. It's about like Christ-centered faithfulness, the church, life overall. 116 is just a holder for this moment in time for what we're doing.
Yeah.
It's not about protecting that.
Yeah.
As far as a brand is concerned.
Because I know we've talked about that in like exec meetings before about even the 116 life, right? It's such people got it tattooed on their arms, on their cars or whatever. Do you feel, Ben, like there's a pressure, or is it okay for the 116 life to evolve, like
yes.
and how it's played out? Because I think sometimes in the comment section it's like people are kind of calling back to the nostalgia of the 116 movement, the way they experienced it. Mm-hmm. How do you acknowledge that, but also not be so married to that?
Yeah, I mean, I think in selfishness, you want to protect your empire, your own little thing. But I think if you're for Christ being magnified in the world, then you can let something die that's not eternal, which is a logo and a brand. You know what I'm saying?
Nah, run that back. Run that back.
It's not easy because you've invested so much in it.
Yeah.
And so, but it does, everything changes, everything evolves. I think, but the things that we want to protect about it were, we were some young guys that loved the scripture, you know, that we loved to see people come to know Christ and grow in Christ. We loved, you know, the church. I mean, we still do all those things, but we want to protect that. We hope that continues.
So does it, how do you feel when one of the newer generation may not like tangibly, let's say like, you know, wear the merch or shout the sentiment 116? How do you like, how do you resonate with that? Like,
go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead.
I question what we're doing to where it's not seen as a, like Ben was saying, like a shell for the things that matter. Because is there a reason why they're not doing that? You know what I'm saying? Like, I would want to know why, you know, and then how, if possible, because I'm not worried about making sure that shell is exciting as much as it's full of the truth that it started with. And that should be exciting enough.
Sure.
You know what I'm saying? So that's what I would question is like, yo, what's happening to where you don't want to?
Sure.
Like, are we doing something? Is that like, that's what I would be.
That's good.
Yeah.
I think with that, how do you, taking it with everything you just said, how do you guys remain the standard or the trendsetters within the space, right? In that, and continually transform it. And then the second part of that question is like, how do you take that into like just general market, like what the 116 life is and how we can represent it in music, or even if it's not explicitly in music, or just operations and how we deal with things and how we execute and how we treat others and stuff like that.
Right. I mean, the culture of it is protected by the way we do things behind the scenes and the way our artists are in front of, you know, the world. I mean, Lecrae is, I think, the trendsetter in protecting what that idea of 116 was about, and helping provide a model for the next generations to follow. You know, like, how are you constantly evolving? How are you still about Christ? How do you go through hard times? How do you fall and get up? How do you, you know, like, he's provided a public model every step of the way that young artists can look to and be inspired by. And I think a lot of what he's done is the reason why we still have what we have, you know, because he's walked in authenticity and openness and transparency. Yeah. And people have been able to look in and see what a Christian man does in all these situations.
So, Lecrae, can you tell me a time where you, after hearing what Ben has said and maybe the pressure or expectation, can you tell me a time in your experience in your leadership, in your artistry, where you felt like, man, I didn't really carry this thing as well as I would like to have this pathway followed, you know, sincerely through from the younger class? Like, tell me, yeah. I mean, I think that's helpful.
Pick a time. Yeah, there's a lot of them.
Yeah, there's a whole movie coming out of it.
Right. I think definitely like around the era after Anomaly went #1, for me, I transcended so much, and there was no example in front of me to like know what to do other than more or less like worldly examples.
That's true.
So I just was like grabbing those, and those became like, well, this is what I need to be doing.
Yeah.
And in doing that, a lot of those ideals are more self-inflating. And so you become more concerned with your own brand, your own everything else, and you you neglect to realize, oh, this is way bigger than you, my brother. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so you zero in on you, and everyone else gets left in the dust, and then you look up and you like, all the me thing I was building has kind of like trickled off or like trailed off. But now behind me, it's like, yeah, you went on all these radio interviews. You talked about you, but you didn't talk about this movement that God is doing that could have continued to give steam to it and push people towards something bigger than you. You make them want to get in, like, oh wow, this is happening. I want to be a part of that. It just became about, I love him, and I felt like another example.
And everybody's cheering you on to do that.
Right.
The entire world, even most of the church, is saying like, you got to get bigger, better.
Yep.
More powerful.
Yep.
That's the way.
Yep.
And so you just take little steps.
In my mind, it's like, if you look at a team like a basketball NBA team, we'll use the New York Knicks.
Shout out to Knicks.
All right. Let's use the Knicks. The Knicks have created this like legacy and embodiment that people are fans of them even when they suck. They're just still like, I believe in the Knicks. So even if they get LeBron James, it's still about the Knicks for the Knicks fan.
Sure.
And I think,
that's a great example.
as the player gets so self-consumed, it no longer becomes about the legacy of the team and the whole bigger thing. It just becomes about that player. But then that player is gonna like get old one day, and he's not gonna be killing it.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And so it's like,
That's real.
So for me, it's like the movement of 116, of the legacy that of Jesus and being unashamed of your faith is the real thing.
Yeah.
But I'm focusing on my scoring title.
Oh yeah. I dropped 30 tonight.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And my MVP.
Right, exactly.
He was Kyrie Irving type vibe.
Yeah, man. So it's
Sorry,
like,
no offense.
But I think you've done an amazing job of that in recent like years. I think you've been absolutely like a great like champion for this space and for the label in general, and just for the 116 life, and how you, because being with you and doing shows and stuff, we've had so many conversations of you like literally being like, I try to lead by example. I try to do all the hard things because I want everybody that's with us to do the hard things too. Like if I'm doing it, you can do it. And I really appreciate that. Like as just somebody that watches it from afar, I love that about your character and how you make that like a label thing. Because like even in the offices, I see that. It's like, hey, we might not want to do the hard things, but I mean, our leaders like Ben, you, Ace, like they're doing the hard. We got to do the hard things too, because this is the culture. I think you guys have built a great culture with like 116 and just the 116 life. It's just been amazing.
Amazing. Like, I mean, I think Ben, maybe you could speak to this. Like, speaking of that 116 life culture, how do you? Because I feel like on the office side, your post is on the way things are running there. Talk about, is it intentional? Like, was it by default? How do you like create that 116 culture, like in the actual label operation side? Because I mean, people don't get to hear that, and I think they'd be love to hear. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it probably could be more intentional as far as like some mapped out structure. And we've done some brainstorming on that before, but I think we're small enough to where a lot of it's just sort of caught and taught by as we go. And so you're in a weekly meeting or you're in conversations, it's how do you make decisions? You know, like when you're at crossroads for things, how do you make decisions? Do you take that money for that thing you think would compromise you or not? You know? And
if you're hanging with Ben on a Monday, he just might take the whole staff to lunch on a random. I mean, that's the kind of like, for real. That's the kind of like, it's a very like team, family, care about people vibe, I think, which is exemplified in your leadership.
And we talk about it a lot. Like one of the things we talk about is we want people to be around us and to feel like we're different.
Yeah.
You know, like people that are outside these walls, they do business with us. We want them to be like, oh man, I like doing business.
And why is that important?
Because it matters. A lot of times you can get focused on the stage. Like I need to be a believer and sold out on stage, but behind the scenes, I'm cutthroat and I'm going to be about my business and hey, it's hard out here and deal with it. And I'm going to step on you, you know, all that stuff.
Sure.
And that's allowed in a lot of spaces.
Even in Christian spaces?
Oh yeah. And because power is just a universal language and success is a universal language. But if you fight for humility and you fight for doing business the right way and, you know, you're going to make mistakes or you're going to sin, like all that stuff's going to be there. But over the long haul, if you want to have the aroma of Christ, you know, and what you're doing, it's going to make a difference to people around you. If your ultimate goal is for people to sort of see Christ in things you do, You know,
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So well said. I mean, we could talk about this for hours. I'm just encouraged hearing y'all.
Ben over here preaching.
Yeah,
boy.
Ben, boy, you might have a second.
You in your bag, Ben. You in your bag right now.
Man,
real.
so we're gonna definitely dive into
it's
some more.
all easy to say. It's a lot harder to do.
Oh, show and tell. I feel you. Well, this is the 116 Life on Holy Culture Radio, Sirius Channel 154. We're gonna take a little break after this. Play some music. You know what I'm saying? Tap in. We're gonna ask Ben and Lecrae some hot take questions. So stay tuned. It's gonna be amazing. Welcome back. This is the 116 Life on Holy Culture Radio, Sirius Channel 154. I'm your host, Ace Harris. I'm here with
DJ Mykael V.
and
Lecrae.
Ben Washer.
yeah, we're having some great convos talking about history, 116 Life, how that impacts the future and all that thing. I want to ask y'all a question. Talk about how exciting it is for the women in Christian hip hop right now, and what we see in culture. Because I feel like it's happening in mainstream culture, pop culture for sure. I feel like finally we're seeing, like, in the Christian space, so much more representation and output from amazing artists. Talk about how's that make you guys feel? What do y'all see, and how can we keep that flame kind of, going?
I personally love it. The only thing I don't love about what's happening with women in Christian hip hop is that we're not involved more. You see what I'm like? As a label, as an artist, like, I just feel like, man, there's got to be more championing of what's happening.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, I'm like a missionary, man. Like, I want to speak to where the cultural narrative is and where it's going. And if like within the culture, women's voices are being amplified, Christians should be all the more on the forefront of making sure women's voices are amplified. You know what I'm saying? I think we have, because of some theological discrepancies, we've followed suit of, sexism or chauvinism and different things along those lines. And I think, a lot of those barriers and walls in this newer generation can come down, and we can begin to see following the footsteps of Jesus in a lot of ways. You dig
That's
what
real.
I'm saying? Like, following his footsteps, and highlight their capabilities and talent and voices. So I'm excited because I'm gonna keep it 1,000.
Okay.
This has been, rap music has been a male dominated genre. And because of that, I think women didn't just, if they weren't interested, they just was like, it's for guys.
Oh,
You see what I'm saying?
Gotcha.
But now it's like, nah, this ain't just for guys. We doing our thing. And so come on, CHH, you know what I'm saying?
I feel it. I feel it.
What we doing? You dig?
And also, speaking of women in Christian hip hop, there's been some couple moments in culture where, like, women who have been a fan of Christian hip hop, like whether that's B. Simone,
Yeah.
even Black China. Like, how does it feel to have these, like, kind of celebrity pop culture brands kind of peering into our space and just, like, giving it credit? You know what I'm saying?
It's so necessary, man. It's so necessary because, again, there's so many areas that I could tap into. Number one, I think in mainstream hip hop right now, the women are dominating. You know what I'm saying?
Facts.
Ice Spice, Glorilla, Cardi B, Doechii, Flo Milli. I mean, it just list goes on and on.
Lotto.
Yeah. And then,
Ice Spice.
yeah, I'm saying, you gonna say it twice?
He's New York.
Of course.
Finally. Oh, Cardi too.
But within the Christian side of things, we need to be able to have a list of names like that to be able to say, hey, these are voices that are doing their thing. And I want to be able to highlight those names. They do exist.
Sure.
You got Toya Love.
Yeah, Toya Love.
Child Like Cece. Reese Lachey.
Kid Lee.
Wande,
obviously.
of course.
Portia Love.
Like, you have these names, but it's like, man, we want to highlight them and get behind them. And again, I just feel like it shouldn't be the world leading in understanding and wisdom and character. Like, our job as believers is to paint a picture of the kingdom.
Right.
Love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, gentleness, self-control. Like, that's all the fruit of the Spirit. If we're not doing that, it's not getting done.
Yeah.
And so if we believe that the fruit of the Spirit does not just exist inside of men, then why are we not giving a runway for women to demonstrate love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, gentleness, self-control, so that the world can see the fullness of the character and the fruit of the Spirit?
That's amazing.
It's good.
I mean, like, obviously, I don't know if there's anything you want to add to that, Ben, or?
No, I mean, that was great. I would just say it's happening.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's happening whether we do something or not. We're seeing it happen and bubble up, and
that's true.
And we like to do our part to help promote it.
Sure.
I mean, the music coming that you're working on.
Yeah, some crazy stuff.
It's crazy.
So speaking of, like, we talked about women in hip hop and potential new artists and all that kind of stuff. I think, Mykael, people will want to know from, like, Lecrae and Ben. But we start with you, Ben. What do you look for in a new artist? What are the tentacles? What are the things that are must have? You know what I'm saying? What's that look like when you're looking at talent?
So I've always thought there's like three things that make a great artist at Reach Records. One is you're good at your craft and you want to get better. So you have this, like, I'm not standing still about your talent. You love Jesus and you're not, like, off in left field about it, but you're solid. You love your word. You're in community. And then third, you're a leader off the mic. So it's not just about who you are with a mic in your hand. It's who you are, out in the community. And are you leading that way? And so I think that kind of three-prong approach really makes a great artist here.
Stay tuned, y'all.
Are there any people that you like that you like? I don't want to say looking at, that's not the question, but are there any people that you've seen that you're like, wow, these are people that have the values of 116 that we salute and we appreciate, like, or anybody you're listening to that's kind of been fire?
They probably don't want to name.
They probably don't want to name.
We see them. I mean,
we see them all.
Yeah.
Like, we see them all. My thing is,
that's not saying there's none out there, but here at Reach, I mean, there's tons of them. You got Deal, you got, I mean, like,
Indie Tribe. Shout out, come on, man.
We can't sign them
all right, so I have a question too. I'm seeing this trend in Christian culture globally. It's happening. Like, I read an article called talked about localization. Basically, people in other countries are not listening to American exported music like they used to. The world is becoming bigger and therefore making the local scene smaller. Like, why is it important for not even Christian culture, but even like Reach, to be tapped into what's happening in the international front? Like, why is that even? I feel like sometimes the church struggles with that a little bit, like feeling like America has to have the end all be all on the movement of church. Why is it important for us to be like against that and tapped into what's happening internationally?
It's humility.
That's good.
I mean, America has a tendency to think of itself as the center of the universe.
Ooh.
And so humility would say there's other perspectives in the church out there, And so, I mean, I think that's just one small part of it, or a big part of it, but
that's good.
That's I feel like you just drop the mic right there, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I would say from the standpoint of, like, stewardship, like, if you have been given access and opportunity, I would say, man, good stewardship is using it for the benefit of others. You know what I mean? And so I think it's like, oh, well, there's a whole space in another part of the world that doesn't have the access and opportunity, but has the Christ-likeness, the character, the competency, the talent. Like, well, shoot, if we can give them an opportunity, then let's do that.
Makes perfect sense. Shout out Limo Blaze and all. There's so much happening in, like, Africa, Brazil, the Latin space. I mean,
facts.
It's like, I feel like, I don't know, this is gonna be so much. So I want to ask y'all some like, put you on the spot a little bit. I think people want to know, especially coming from y'all, looking at the legacy of Reach Records, the releases. Can you speak to a song that you feel like should have never came out? And hey, don't hold back too. I just want to hear, you know what I'm saying? Like
that should have never came out.
Like, yeah, you know,
I got one in my head already.
Okay, what's
like because of what?
For quality control, like it wasn't a good song.
God is enough, for sure.
Shut up.
Yo,
God is enough.
Nah, bro. He knows I have a vendetta against that song. It's a joke.
Well,
It's a joke.
say more. Why?
It just didn't. It wasn't authentic, bro. It's just I know why you did it. We've had this conversation, but it's just.
Can you share or?
I when I did that song, so two things prompted me to do that song. One, I went to this conference and I noticed that people were chanting collective like things to God. And I was like, yo, I want to do something like that in rap music. And then at the time, there was an artist named Kid Ink, and he was really big. And his producer was a fan. And his producer was like, yo, I got some tracks for you. And like, I was like, man, the audience that is singing these choral songs is not gonna want this hard hip hop stuff. But Kid Ink's producer made this song that fits kind of this space. So I was trying to blend it together and just, it was an experiment. I mean, it's an experiment. But I guess for me, it's like, it was experimental.
Yeah. It wasn't
versus
that.
like,
bro, it's honestly it's a joke. That's why I kept saying it. It's like the 8th time I've said this.
I'm as far as songs that should have never came out, I think for me it's like, I don't think we have ever sacrificed integrity, whether that's artistic or like character, to put out something. I think it may not have been authentic to me or to whoever, but we knew it was quality or good for somebody.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
It fitted a
great perspective.
space.
Right. So it wasn't like just do it. I can't think of a song right now that just was like just
anything
like,
for you, Ben, that you're like, this when I see this I'm like, you know.
I mean, there's songs that I haven't loved the sound of that had utility for an audience.
Right.
You know, like he was saying, it's like, oh, this pocket here would like this sound.
Yeah.
And I don't personally like it, or I feel like it's like, you know.
What's maybe on a positive note, what's something that like historically, like the greatest thing, one of the most funnest things you've worked on project wise that was like, I think doing the best of is just so difficult, which I don't want nobody to get into that. But like, what's something you like remember a project, an album cycle where it was like, man, this was just an amazing time. And I really like, this really like, thank God for my job that I get to do this every day. What album really helped you like say that, you know what I'm saying, or feel that?
Sure.
Sheesh. I think for me, Tedashi's Identity Crisis
classic
was that was just cool because it felt like things were just coming together. It was like we did Rebel, Identity Crisis, 2020, all in like the same kind of era, and it just was like, I don't know, it just felt like
that Memphis era.
Yeah. It just, things were just shink, 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 shink. Like it was like super cool to me. Yes. I felt like we were making very culturally relevant music, very on par, very Christ saturated, and it was just bang, 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 bang. Yeah. It was a dope time for me personally.
I think before we wrap up, I have a question for the both of y'all, since we've been here.
Yeah.
Like what, 20? It's been 20 some years, whatever. And I just wanted to ask, like, what's in the future for y'all? Like, as owners and Lecrae as an artist, like, what do you think the next phase of who you are is within this label and business?
It's hard to know the future. You know, I think directionally, we're excited about that idea of being unashamed and promoting artists that want to be about Jesus, you know, and so that's one lane. Another lane is we're kind of branching off and starting some, you know, some efforts. Like we've got a mixing company that we started with with Biz here. So there's some cool stuff happening, like our expertise in the industry helping grow something in that and then also, Reach Records, the record label, continuing to work with the next generation of artists,
Amazing.
Yeah, I'm kind of with Ben. Like, it's a day by day process for me because, we're not in the dreamer phase of our lives. We're in the stewardship phase of our lives, So I think it's like investing in people's dreams is, if it is something that is probably a little more exciting, is like seeing people's visions come alive. I think that's dope for me. I enjoy creating music. It's like a sport for me. It's like I'm always gonna play the sport. It's enjoyable until people are like, yeah, we're not really interested in, but I just don't imagine, like, hip hop is that space where I think people haven't seen folks do it continually. But in other genres, it's like they just keep, I don't know, Cher was probably 60 years old dropping music.
Yo, she out here, bro.
That's a fact.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So
Celine Dion out here.
yeah,
doing
you know what I mean?
world
So
tours.
I like creating music, and I like coaching younger artists and just like being involved in their process. So I don't know what the future looks like. We've had some extremely high highs. It's hard once you get to certain places to like envision going on that roller coaster ride again.
Whoa.
It's like,
That's humbling and sobering just to hear. Like,
it's like, woo.
It's also dope that you have the idea of like, I'm not gonna overstay my welcome. I know when to bow out. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, because there's a lot of people that, because of pride, ego, or other things, will just try to stay in the spotlight or do things for just to I can still do it, but not do it well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
God is enough part 2 coming.
Oh my God, shoot me.
It's going down.
Nah.
Boy, that speaking, man. Yeah.
I care more. I'll tell you this much. I care more in this season of my life about the character and the knowledge that some of these young artists have. Because being an artist is like a fast track to leadership, unfortunately. And it puts people in front of so many folks, and their character and their knowledge and wisdom is oftentimes very shortchanged. Like, if you notice, there was just an era in Christian rap where most of us went to a Bible institute, took a course.
Yeah.
Like, we were authoritative publicly because we knew the scriptures privately.
That's good.
And I think that is what I want for this next generation, is for them to like
be astute.
Yeah, you've been fast tracked to being in front of people. Like know your word, fam. Like, but you can't be an authority if you don't submit to an authority. And I don't think a lot of them wanna bow down,
true authority.
Come on, man, your boy,
they don't want to be submissive to a pastor. They don't want to be part of a body of believers. They don't want to listen to people who are older and wiser, because the older, wiser don't have as many followers as they have. Just little stuff. I'm not trying to pick on y'all. Yeah. I'm just saying those are the things that I'm like, I want to see more of in the future.
And I'm seeing what you're calling out presently in the way the artists glean from you, Lecrae and Ben, and to like want to pursue that, even though it may not. I've seen it where people are like, oh, I need to be in discipleship. I need to. Yeah. So I think you guys are modeling. I mean, we could talk about the future. I think what's refreshing for me to hear is like, the future is a reflection of what God's doing in us now. Yeah. And that's just growing.
It'll take care of itself if you focus on the right things.
I think that's
right. That's woo.
That's
that boy Ben is bad.
All right, y'all. This is the 116 Pentecostal AME Church in Christ. Ben Washer
presiding.
But for real, it's been a little bit over time, but this has been amazing. I appreciate y'all so much, and we'll tune in next time, man. And catch y'all later. 116 Life. Let's get it.